The battlefield was silent, but it was not peace. It was the silence of death. Smoke still rose from broken machines. The ground was covered with ash, metal, and blood. Shadows of war stretched across the ruins, and the air smelled of fire. A human soldier walked slowly through the wreckage. His armor was scratched, his weapon almost empty. He had survived the last attack, but he did not feel like a victor. He felt like a ghost walking through a graveyard. His name was forgotten here. To the army, he was only a number, another soldier on another broken world. But inside, he carried a heavy weight. The war had taken everything. Friends, hope, even the sound of laughter. And yet, as he moved through the ruins, something caught his attention. It was faint, almost too faint to hear. A sound, not the sound of machines, not the sound of soldiers. It was softer, weaker, fragile. A cry. The soldier froze. His training told him to ignore it. The battlefield was full of traps. Enemies often used recordings of children or animals to lure humans into ambushes. But this sound? It felt different. It was not mechanical. It was alive. He followed it, step by step, closer and closer. Behind a broken wall of stone and twisted steel, he saw movement. A small shape, then another. He pushed aside the debris with his armored gloves, and his breath stopped. Two small creatures lay hidden in the rubble. They looked like tiger cubs, but not from Earth. Their fur carried strange patterns, glowing faintly like starlight. Their eyes shone an unnatural gold, bright even in the dark. The soldier stared at them in disbelief. Tiger-like alien cubs, in the middle of a battlefield where humans and aliens had killed each other for months. One of the cubs let out a weak cry, its tiny chest rising and falling. The other blinked slowly, too weak to stand. The soldier's orders echoed in his head. Ignore distractions. Leave no survivors. Move forward and secure the sector. He tightened his grip on his weapon. If he followed the rules, he would leave them. If he followed the rules, they would die. But something inside him resisted. There was no logic in it. No strategy. Yet as he looked at the cubs, he felt something stir in his chest. A memory buried deep. He remembered his little sister back on Earth, holding a kitten in her arms, smiling like the war would never reach them. He remembered how he had promised to protect her. And now, in front of him, were two small lives, fragile, helpless, and alone. The soldier lowered his weapon. Still, fear pulled at him. Why were these cubs here? Had the aliens abandoned them? Or were they placed here on purpose, a trap waiting to spring? He studied them carefully. The markings on their fur seemed to shift slowly, as if alive. Their eyes glowed with a strange intelligence, watching him closely. Not like animals, more like something else. The soldier stepped back. His heart pounded. Every instinct told him this was dangerous. But another voice, quiet and stubborn, whispered inside him. If you leave them, you are no better than the monsters you fight. The cubs whimpered again. The sound was soft, but it cut deeper than any weapon. He looked around. The battlefield was empty for now. No one was watching. No commander, no drone, no camera, just him and the cubs. His orders were clear. But war had already stolen too much from him. Maybe just this once he could disobey. He knelt down slowly. The cubs did not run. They did not fear him. Instead, one of them crawled forward weakly and pressed its small head against his glove. For the first time in years, the soldier felt something break inside his armor. Not metal, not steel, something deeper. His heart. He carefully lifted the cubs, wrapping them inside his cloak. They were warm, fragile, and alive. But as he stood, he felt a strange chill. The air shifted. The ground seemed heavier. He looked into the distance and realized something terrifying. This was no accident. The cubs were not here by chance. Someone had left them here. Someone powerful. Someone who wanted them found. And if that was true, then the soldier was no longer just a survivor. He was now the keeper of a secret so dangerous it could change the war. The ruins fell silent again, but the silence was no longer empty. It was heavy. It was waiting. The soldier tightened his grip on the cubs and whispered under his breath, "This is not the end. This is the beginning." The soldier walked through the ruins with the cubs hidden under his cloak. Every step felt heavier than the last, not because of the weight, but because of the decision he had made. He had broken the rules. He had ignored his orders. And in war, breaking orders was more dangerous than facing the enemy. Still, when he looked down and saw two small heads pressed against his chest, he felt something strange. A warmth, a reason, something he had not felt since the war began. But that warmth did not erase the danger. It only made it worse. The cubs were not ordinary creatures. Their fur glowed faintly in the dark. Their eyes followed him with unnatural focus, as if they understood more than simple animals should. One of them even touched the broken communicator on his wrist, and for a second, the screen flickered back to life. The soldier froze. He stared at the tiny paw resting on the cracked device. That was impossible. Machines did not respond to animals. And yet, the signal bars glowed for the first time in days. He quickly pulled his cloak tighter. If the army discovered this, they would not call the cubs innocent. They would call them weapons, and weapons were never allowed to live free. He reached an abandoned human outpost, its walls half broken, its towers silent. Here he stopped and placed the cubs on a piece of cloth. They curled together, purring softly, as if they trusted him completely. The soldier sat down, his hands gripping his helmet. His mind screamed at him. You are not their father. You are not their protector. You are a soldier. Soldiers obey orders, but his heart answered differently. If I leave them, who will save them? He closed his eyes, hearing voices from the past. His commander's harsh tone. Do not let emotions guide you. Emotions are weakness. But another voice pushed through softer. His mother's voice from long ago. Real strength is not in killing. It is in protecting. The battlefield outside was quiet, but not for long. Distant sounds of engines rumbled in the air. Enemy patrols. They were searching for survivors. The soldier looked at the cubs. If they were found, they would not be spared. The aliens would kill them, or worse, use them. His decision grew heavier. Should he leave them behind to save himself, or risk everything for two lives that were not even human? The younger cub stirred, blinking its golden eyes. It stumbled forward, its small paw pressing against his chest plate. For a moment, their eyes met, and the soldier felt it. A connection. Not words, not thoughts, but something deeper. It was as if the cub was telling him, don't leave us. We are not just animals. We are more. He pulled his cloak around them again. His choice was made. He would protect them, not because it was smart, not because it was safe, but because it was right. He started moving again, keeping to the shadows. But danger was already close. From the ruins ahead, a drone appeared, its red eye scanning the ground. The soldier froze behind a wall, pressing the cubs against his chest to keep them silent. The drone moved slowly, its sensors humming. Then, without warning, it turned directly toward him. The soldier prepared to fire, but before he could move, one of the cubs let out a low growl. Its fur lit up faintly, and the drone's red eye flickered. The machine froze mid-air, sparks bursting from its metal shell before crashing to the ground. The soldier stared in shock. He had not touched his weapon. The cub had done this. His heart pounded. These cubs were no accident. They were powerful, maybe too powerful. He whispered to himself, "What are you?" But there was no answer. Only the soft purring of the cubs, as if nothing had happened. Hours later, he finally reached a hidden tunnel where he could rest. He placed the cubs down and tried to think clearly. He knew what would happen if anyone discovered them. Humans would see them as a threat. Aliens would see them as a prize. And both sides would fight to claim them. The soldier touched the cubs gently. They were warm, alive, and completely dependent on him now. He realized something terrifying. By saving them, he had not only broken his orders, he had tied his fate to theirs. If they lived, he lived. If they were hunted, he was hunted. And in the distance, as the sky burned with the glow of alien ships, he understood the truth. The war was no longer just between humans and aliens. The real war had not even begun, and it would begin with these cubs. The soldier leaned back against the wall, eyes heavy, body exhausted. He whispered into the darkness, "I made my choice. Now I must face the cost. The cubs pressed against him, and for the first time, he did not feel alone. But outside the tunnel, footsteps echoed. Voices shouted in the alien tongue. The hunt had begun. The tunnel walls shook with every sound. The soldier pressed his back against the cold stone, his weapon ready, his heart racing. The cubs stayed hidden under his cloak, their small bodies warm against him. Outside, the voices grew louder. Alien hunters. They were searching the ruins, moving closer with every step. The soldier's mind worked fast. He had two choices: stay and be discovered, or run and risk being hunted. He chose to run. He moved silently through the dark tunnel, his boots brushing against broken stone. The cubs stayed quiet, as if they understood the danger, but the voices followed. Shadows danced on the walls as lights from alien search drones crawled through the cracks. One wrong step, one sound too loud, and he would be caught. The soldier reached the end of the tunnel and slipped out into the night. The sky above burned with red fire, the wreckage of war lighting the horizon. But the silence broke when a drone spotted movement. A sharp alarm screamed across the battlefield. The hunt was on. The soldier sprinted across the ruins, weaving between broken walls and collapsed towers. Energy blasts cut through the air, striking stone inches away from him. He clutched the cubs tighter, his cloak shielding their glow. But the aliens were fast. Their drones circled overhead, scanning every shadow. Their hunters shouted, their footsteps pounding closer. The soldier's breath burned in his chest, but he did not stop. If he stopped, they would be taken, and he could not let that happen. Suddenly, a beam of light locked on him. A hunter stepped from the shadows, weapon raised. The alien's eyes narrowed when it saw the bundle under his cloak. The soldier fired first. The alien fell, its weapon clattering against the stone. But the sound drew more attention. Within moments, more hunters appeared, their weapons glowing. He was surrounded. The soldier backed against a wall, holding his rifle in one hand, the cubs in the other. He knew he could not win, not against this many. One of the cubs let out a frightened cry. The hunters stopped. Their faces changed from anger to fear. They whispered in their language, their eyes fixed not on the soldier, but on the cubs. The soldier noticed it. The aliens were afraid, not of him, but of what he carried. The hunters raised their weapons again, but before they could fire, something strange happened. The cubs glowed. Their fur shimmered like burning stars. The ground vibrated beneath the soldiers' feet. Machines around them sparked. The drones overhead froze mid-air, their lights flickering before they crashed to the ground like broken toys. The hunters shouted in panic. Some dropped their weapons. Others fell back, retreating into the darkness. The soldier stared in shock. The cubs had done it again. They had used their power without touching a thing. But this time it was stronger. Too strong. The glow faded and the cubs slumped against his chest, weak and trembling. They were exhausted, as if the power had drained them. The soldier held them close, whispering softly, "Stay with me. Stay alive." But in his heart, fear grew. He had seen the truth with his own eyes. These cubs were not ordinary. They were something more. And the aliens knew it. That was why they hunted him. That was why they were afraid. The soldier realized he was no longer just running for himself. He was running with a secret that could shake the entire war. He moved again, slipping deeper into the ruins, every step echoing with danger. The cubs slept, but their faint glow pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. He remembered the way the hunters looked at them, not with hatred, with fear. What kind of creatures could make warriors afraid? What kind of power could make machines die without a touch? The soldier did not know, but he knew one thing. If the aliens wanted them this badly, then he had to protect them, no matter the cost. Hours later, when the sky turned dark and the battlefield grew quiet, the soldier found a ruined shelter where he could rest. He sat against the wall, his weapon by his side, the cubs curled against his chest. His body ached. His eyes burned with exhaustion, but his mind could not rest. He whispered to himself, "This is more than war. This is something bigger." He looked at the cubs, sleeping peacefully as if the galaxy was not hunting them, and deep inside he felt it again, the pull of destiny. The sense that his life had changed forever the moment he picked them up. But outside, far above the ruins, alien ships moved silently across the sky. Their searchlights swept the ground, and their commanders spoke one word again and again in their tongue, a word that meant danger, a word that meant fear. The cubs were not just lost children. They were the key to something ancient, something hidden, something powerful enough to decide the future of the galaxy. And now, the soldier was part of it. The chase had only begun. The soldier had not slept. His eyes stayed open through the long night, listening to every sound in the ruins. The cubs slept beside him, their small bodies curled against his armor. When the first light touched the broken battlefield, he knew he had no choice but to move again. Staying in one place meant death. The aliens would not stop searching. He carried the cubs carefully, hiding them under his cloak. Each step took him deeper into the shattered city, a graveyard of steel and stone. But soon, the silence broke. The sound of engines, the sharp hum of alien drones. The hunt had found him again. The soldier ran through the ruins, his boots kicking up ash. Energy blasts cut the air, exploding against walls and broken machines. The cubs whimpered under his cloak, their small bodies trembling. He dived behind a collapsed building, pressing his back to the wall. The aliens were closing in. He could hear their heavy footsteps, their weapons charging. He whispered softly to the cubs, as if his voice could calm them. "Stay quiet. Stay strong." But one of the cubs stirred. Its golden eyes opened, glowing faintly in the dark. And then, everything changed. The air grew heavy, like a storm was forming. The soldier felt his skin prickle beneath his armor. The cub lifted its head and let out a low growl, not loud but deep. The ruins around them began to shake. The alien drones above flickered, their lights sputtering. One by one, they dropped from the sky, crashing into the rubble. The soldier stared in disbelief. He had not fired a single shot. The cub was doing this. The ground itself seemed to pulse with power, and then, with a sudden flash, a shockwave burst outward. The nearest alien hunters were thrown to the ground, their weapons flying from their hands. The soldier shielded the cubs with his body as dust and stone rained down. When the air cleared, the battlefield was silent again. The aliens who had been hunting him were gone. Some had fled. Others lay motionless in the ruins. And the cub. The cub had fallen weakly against his chest, its glow fading. The soldier held it close, his heart racing. He could not deny it anymore. These cubs were not ordinary. They carried a power beyond his understanding. He whispered in a shaky voice, "What are you really?" The cub did not answer. But in its golden eyes, even as they closed in exhaustion, the soldier thought he saw something. Not just instinct, not just survival, but purpose. He moved quickly, searching for another hiding place before more aliens arrived. His mind spun with questions. Were these cubs weapons created by the enemy? Or were they survivors of something older, something greater? He remembered the fear in the alien hunters' eyes when they had seen the cubs. They were not hunting them because they hated them. They were hunting them because they feared them. And fear meant danger. Fear meant the cubs were important. That night, he found shelter in the remains of an old human bunker. He set the cubs down on a blanket and checked their small bodies. They were tired, but alive. Their glow pulsed faintly, like the slow beat of a heart. The soldier sat nearby, staring at them. He thought about his orders. If his commanders knew about this, they would demand the cubs at once. They would study them, test them, maybe even destroy them. But another thought came, darker. What if the aliens were not the only ones afraid? What if humans feared them too? Would his own people hunt him just as the enemy did? The soldier clenched his fists. He was caught in the middle of something far greater than a war between species. He was holding a secret powerful enough to change everything. As he sat in the bunker, the cubs stirred again. One of them lifted its head and walked unsteadily toward him. It pressed its small paw against his chest, right above his heart. For a moment, the soldier felt warmth spread through his body. The ache in his muscles faded. The sharp pain in his leg from an old wound disappeared. He froze. The cub's touch had healed him. He stared at the small creature, unable to speak. These cubs were not just powerful. They were something greater, something the galaxy was not ready to face. But outside the bunker, lights appeared in the sky. Dozens of alien ships hovered above the ruins, scanning the ground. Their search had not ended. It had only grown stronger. The soldier tightened his grip on his weapon and looked at the cubs. He whispered, "Whatever you are, I will protect you, even if the whole galaxy comes for us." The cubs blinked at him, their golden eyes glowing faintly, as if they understood. And for the first time, the soldier felt a terrifying truth settle in his heart. The cubs were not just his responsibility. They were his fate. The soldier had kept moving for days. Every step took him deeper into abandoned cities, broken forests, and burned-out battlefields. The cubs were always close to him, hidden under his cloak, their golden eyes watching. He thought he was alone, but he was wrong. One night, as he rested in the remains of a collapsed building, he heard footsteps. Not alien footsteps, human ones. He raised his weapon instantly, his body tense. Shadows moved across the rubble, and then familiar voices called out. "Stand down! Human soldier, identify yourself!" The soldier lowered his weapon slowly. For the first time in weeks, he was not facing enemies. It was a human patrol. 5 soldiers carrying the same armor and weapons as him. Relief rushed through his chest. He was not alone anymore, but then he remembered the cubs under his cloak, and the relief turned cold. The patrol leader stepped forward. "You survived," he said, surprised. Command thought this sector was lost. The soldier nodded but said nothing. The cubs shifted softly beneath his cloak, and he tightened his grip to keep them hidden. The humans offered him water and food, and for a moment, he allowed himself to feel safe. He almost believed he had found allies again. But safety did not last long. As the group rested by a fire, one of the soldiers noticed the faint glow beneath his cloak. "What's that?" the man asked. The soldier froze. His mind raced. Lie? Tell the truth? The cubs made the choice for him. One of them poked its head out, golden eyes shining in the dark. The humans stared in shock. "What the hell is that?" one whispered. "Alien creature," another muttered, reaching for his weapon. The soldier pulled the cub back under his cloak. "They're not a threat," he said firmly. "They're children, innocent." But the others did not believe him. Their eyes filled with fear. The patrol leader stepped closer. "You don't understand," he said. "Command gave strict orders. Any alien life found must be destroyed. No exceptions." "They're not just life," the soldier argued. "They're more. They saved me. They have power." The others exchanged uneasy looks. Power! That word made them nervous. The leader's voice hardened. "Then it's worse than we thought. You've been protecting enemy weapons. Do you realize what you've done?" The soldier shook his head. "No, I protected lives. If you saw what they can do, you'd understand." But his words did not change their faces. Instead of trust, he saw suspicion. Instead of respect, he saw fear. One soldier lifted his rifle. "Hand them over now!" The soldier's heart pounded. These were his own people, his brothers in arms, and yet they looked at him like he was a traitor. He held the cubs tighter. "No, I won't let you hurt them." Tension filled the air. 5 rifles pointed at him. 1 man against 5. And still he did not let go. The leader sighed. You leave us no choice. He raised his hand to give the order, but before he could speak, the cubs reacted. A sudden pulse of energy burst from under the cloak, throwing the soldiers back. Their weapons sparked, their armor overloaded. The soldier shielded the cubs as the ground shook. When the glow faded, the patrol lay scattered and groaning, too weak to stand. The soldier looked down at the cubs. They trembled, exhausted, but alive. And he understood something bitter. The cubs had not attacked out of anger. They had defended him. Just like he defended them. The leader coughed, struggling to rise. His eyes burned with hatred. You've chosen them over us. You're no soldier. You're a traitor. The words cut deeper than any blade. The soldier wanted to shout, to explain, to make them understand. But he saw it in their faces. They would never accept it. To them, the cubs were monsters, and anyone who protected them was no better. The soldier's chest felt heavy. He had dreamed of reunion, of finding his people again, but instead, he had found betrayal. He turned away, clutching the cubs close. He did not look back as the patrol cursed his name. He did not look back as they called for reinforcements over their comms. The soldier walked into the night, his heart heavy but his choice clear. He was no longer just fighting aliens. He was fighting his own kind. The cubs pressed against him, their warmth steady. They were all he had left, and he was all they had. Far away, human command received the patrol's message. One word repeated again and again through the broken signal. Traitor, traitor, traitor! The soldier did not hear it, but he felt the weight of it in his soul. The war had changed. It was no longer about sides. It was about survival, and in that survival, he carried the most dangerous secret in the galaxy. The soldier walked alone through the ruins, carrying the cubs close to his chest. Every step echoed in the silence, but in his mind, the voices of betrayal still burned. Traitor. That was what his own people had called him, not because he had killed a human, not because he had abandoned his duty, but because he had chosen to protect 2 small lives. The word cut him deeply, yet he did not regret his choice. The cubs were innocent, and now they were his only family. Still, he knew the truth. He was no longer safe among humans, no longer safe among aliens. He was hunted by both. That night, the soldier found an old shelter in the ruins of a library. The walls were broken, books scattered like ashes, but it was quiet. He built a small fire and set the cubs down to rest. As the flames flickered, he thought he was alone. But then, from the shadows, he heard movement. A figure stepped forward. Not a soldier, not a hunter, but an alien prisoner shackled and wounded. The soldier aimed his weapon instantly, but the alien raised its hands. Wait, it croaked in a weak voice. I am not here to fight. The soldier narrowed his eyes. Then why are you here? The alien's gaze shifted to the cubs. Its eyes widened in shock, then in fear. You carry them? The soldier held his weapon tighter. You know what they are? The alien nodded slowly. They are not simple cubs. They are not beasts. They are heirs, the soldier frowned. Heirs to what? The alien leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. To the throne of a race older than you can imagine. A race our overlords destroyed long ago. A race the galaxy believed to be gone forever. The soldier's heart pounded. He looked at the cubs, their golden eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. He had felt their power, seen their strength, but he had never understood why. Explain, he demanded. The alien's voice was heavy with fear. Long ago, before your species even walked the stars, there was a great empire. A predator race, strong and wise. They ruled not with numbers, but with power. Power that lived inside them. The soldier thought of the drones falling, the shock waves, the healing touch. Power that lived inside them. The alien's eyes darkened. Our masters, the overlords, feared them. So they destroyed their worlds, burned their bloodlines, erased their name from history. Only whispers remain. Whispers of the star beasts. The soldier whispered the words under his breath. Star beasts. The alien pointed at the cubs. They are the last. The bloodline survived, hidden. If they live long enough, they will not remain cubs. They will grow into what their kind once were. And when that day comes, the overlords will fall. The soldier's chest grew cold. The cubs were not just rare creatures. They were the galaxy's most dangerous secret. A living prophecy. The alien coughed, blood on its lips. That is why they hunt you. Not because you broke orders, not because you are a soldier, but because you carry the only hope and the only fear the galaxy has left. The cubs stirred in their sleep, their faint glow lighting the room. The alien flinched and bowed its head. They already carry the power. I can feel it. Protect them, human, for if they die, hope dies with them. The soldier lowered his weapon slowly. He studied the alien. It was weak, broken, but its words carried weight. Truth hid in every syllable. He looked back at the cubs and whispered to himself, "Not weapons. Not monsters, heirs." The alien staggered, its strength fading. Before collapsing, it said one last thing. "Beware your own kind. Humans will fear them too, and fear makes allies into enemies." The words echoed in the soldier's mind as the alien went still. He sat by the fire all night, staring at the cubs. The weight on his shoulders felt heavier than ever. He was not just protecting lives. He was protecting the future. But the alien's warning haunted him. Humans would fear them, and when fear spread, the betrayal he had faced would only grow. The soldier clenched his fists. If both sides wanted the cubs dead, then he had only one path left. He would stand between them and the galaxy. He would become their shield. Far above in the black sky, the alien overlord's fleet moved like shadows. Their commanders spoke in cold voices, their orders clear. Find the cubs. Kill the human. The bloodline must not rise again. And somewhere, deep in the human command, messages spread of a soldier who had betrayed his people to protect alien children. The soldier did not know it yet, but the net was closing. Enemies from both sides were hunting him. And the cubs he carried, the so-called heirs, were the reason. The revelation was clear. The cubs were not just survivors. They were destiny. The soldier had been running for days, through ruined cities, broken forests, and endless dust. His body was weak, his armor cracked, but he never let go of the cubs. The cubs clung to him, silent but watchful. They seemed to understand the danger closing in. And danger was everywhere. Human patrols searched the ground with scanners. Alien hunters filled the skies with drones. Everywhere he turned, there were enemies. The soldier knew he could not run forever. Sooner or later, he would be forced to fight. And that moment came at the edge of a dead city. The ruins stretched for miles, broken towers stabbing at the sky like bones. The soldier stopped at the base of a shattered building, his chest heaving. His ears picked up the sound of engines. Not one engine. Dozens. He set the cubs down in a hollow space between rocks and raised his rifle. "Stay here," he whispered. The cubs blinked at him, their glowing eyes filled with trust. But the soldier knew the truth. This might be the last time they saw him alive. The ground shook as armored vehicles rolled into the streets. From the opposite side, alien ships descended, their spotlights slicing through the dust. The soldier's heart froze. Both sides had come, humans and aliens. The entire battlefield had turned against him. He gritted his teeth. This is it. No more running. The first squad appeared. Human soldiers, armored and armed. One of them raised a megaphone. "Drop your weapons, soldier! Hand over the cubs!" The soldier didn't move. His rifle was steady, his eyes cold. "They're not your enemies!" he shouted back. "They're just children!" The soldiers hesitated. But before they could answer, alien voices screamed through the ruins. Troops in black armor stormed from the other side, their weapons glowing red. Chaos exploded. Humans and aliens opened fire, not just at him, but at each other. The soldier ducked behind rubble as bullets and plasma cut the air. Explosions shook the ground. Dust filled his lungs. But he did not run. He fought. His rifle spat fire, dropping enemies on both sides. His blade cut down those who came too close. Every shot, every strike was fueled by one thought: protect the cubs. But the enemies were endless. For every soldier he cut down, two more appeared. His armor cracked under fire. Blood ran down his arm. Still, he stood. Still, he fought. Then, A rocket struck the rubble near the Cubs' hiding place. The blast threw them into the open. Their small bodies tumbled across the dirt, their eyes glowing in panic. The battlefield froze. Humans and aliens alike turned their weapons toward the Cubs. The soldier's scream tore through the night. "No!" He threw himself between the Cubs and the armies, arms spread wide. Bullets ripped past him, plasma seared the air. He braced for the final strike. But before it came, the Cubs roared. The sound was not the cry of children. It was deep, ancient, powerful, echoing across the ruins like thunder. The ground split. Light burst from their bodies, golden and burning. A shock wave exploded outward, throwing soldiers and aliens back like leaves in a storm. Machines shut down. Weapons melted in soldiers' hands. The very air trembled with their power. The Cubs stood tall, their small frames glowing brighter and brighter. They no longer looked helpless. They looked like kings. The soldier fell to his knees, shielding his eyes from the blinding light. When he looked again, the armies were in retreat. Terrified soldiers ran. Alien troops screamed in panic. No one wanted to face the Cubs. The battlefield was silent once more. Only the soldier and the glowing Cubs remained. He dropped his rifle, staring at them in awe. They walked back to him slowly, their glow fading to a soft shimmer. One of them pressed its head against his chest, as if to comfort him. He whispered, voice shaking, "What? What are you becoming?" The alien's words returned to him. "Heirs. The bloodline survived. They will grow into what their kind once were." The soldier realized the truth. The Cubs were no longer just survivors. They were awakening. Above, the sky lit up with new fire. A massive alien battleship descended, its shadow covering the ruins. Human command ships blinked in orbit, preparing to strike. The Cubs had revealed themselves. The secret was no longer hidden. The soldier tightened his grip on them. The last stand was not over. It had only just begun. The battlefield was quiet, too quiet. Smoke drifted through the ruins. Shattered machines lay in pieces, glowing faintly. And at the center of it all stood the soldier, clutching the Cubs close. He was alive. But he knew this silence was not peace. It was the silence before a greater storm. Above him, the alien battleship's shadow grew darker. Its engines roared like thunder, shaking the broken city. From the other side of the sky, human command ships glimmered in orbit, preparing their cannons. Two great powers, both aiming at one small figure, the soldier, and the Cubs in his arms. The Cubs stirred, their golden eyes glowing faintly. Their bodies trembled, but it was not fear. It was something deeper, something waking inside them. The soldier whispered, voice hoarse, "Stay with me, please." But then, he heard it, not with his ears, with his mind. A voice, ancient, powerful, calm. It spoke through the Cubs. "Human, you are chosen." The soldier froze. He looked at the Cubs, their eyes glowing brighter. The voice spoke again, filling his mind with visions. He saw stars burning, worlds falling, armies kneeling in fear, and then he saw himself, standing at the heart of the storm, the Cubs at his side, not as their protector, but as their bond. The voice echoed, "The bloodline lives, the prophecy begins. Two paths stand before you. Protect us, and the galaxy will bow. Betray us, and the galaxy will burn." The soldier's chest tightened. He was no hero. He was just a broken fighter who had refused one cruel order. And yet now, the fate of countless worlds rested on him. He whispered, shaking. What do you want from me?" The Cubs blinked slowly, their glowing eyes filled with something too deep for children. Not anger, not fear, but destiny. Suddenly, the sky erupted, a blast of light rained down from the alien battleship. The soldier grabbed the Cubs and dove into the rubble as the city shook. Fire swallowed the streets. Towers crumbled like sand. From the other side, human ships answered with their own cannons. Explosions painted the sky red and gold. The war for the cubs had begun. The soldier crawled from the ruins, coughing. He looked around at the chaos. Human soldiers screaming, alien hunters falling, the world itself tearing apart. In the middle of it, the cubs glowed brighter, their small bodies shining like suns. The voice returned. Stronger now. This war will not end until we rise, and when we rise, you will stand with us. The soldier clutched them tighter, his heart racing. He had no choice anymore. He was no longer just a protector. He was part of their destiny. Then came the final warning. The voice whispered inside his mind. Softer now, almost sorrowful. But beware, your kind will not understand. Humans will fear us. And when fear comes, they will turn against you. The soldier froze. His own people, his own brothers and sisters, would they become his greatest enemies? The cubs pressed against his chest, their glow fading to a soft shimmer, for now they looked like helpless children again. But he knew the truth. They were far more, and the galaxy knew it too. The soldier looked to the burning sky, his face hard. He had chosen once before, and he would choose again. If the galaxy wanted war, then he would fight for the cubs, no matter the cost. Above, the alien battleship and human fleet shifted, preparing for another strike. The ruins shook, the air burned, and in the shadows countless eyes watched, spies, drones, commanders. Everyone now knew the same truth. The cubs lived. The prophecy had begun. The soldier tightened his grip, his whisper barely audible. What is this dangerous secret you carry? The cubs blinked at him, and for a heartbeat, he swore he saw not children, but kings. The voice returned one final time. The secret is this: we are not your burden. We are your future. The ruins trembled. The sky burned. And the soldier realized the real war had not even started.